Hello.
Thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry. I decided to have a bowl of cereal before. Just
Well, that's not try not to be talking with your mouth full, right?
Swiss, yes.
So, how have you been?
Okay. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was excellent. So there were 18 of us
Oh
together.
wow.
One person.
Wow.
That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And where did you meet?
Well, it's a town about 40 miles north of where we live in Atlanta. So it's basically an Atlanta area, but
Yeah.
it used to be the far outskirts. Now it's almost gobbled up.
So is it somebody's home?
Yeah, someone's
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, nice. Hey, Miss Annie. Oh, I like your top.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. How was your Thanksgiving?
Um, Almost like any other day, but nice.
Did you do the dinner?
No,
I thought your group had a dinner.
we did that. No, November 17th, last week.
Yeah. Did you do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that all right?
Yeah, it was nice. I liked it a
Very.
lot.
And people came?
Yes. I didn't count them, but it was a nice group. Yeah,
Good.
people showed up. The food was great.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, I know you were worried about that. So,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't know how the community would respond to the management's lack of all the
advertise.
things I would do. but but I live my life in that space. Generally, the world's not doing what I would do.
Yes.
Oh,
I do know that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that
oh,
was part of my Thanksgiving because I have a very good friend here, and she's just been amazing for me since moving to Spokane. And she has managed to accumulate her family. So they have come over the years to be here. So we basically hosted her family.
Hmm.
oh, nice.
So, and that is all nice except for one person who
Oh,
has kind of muscled her way in, and is now living in Anne's house. Um, and Anne's not happy with that, but she's not strong enough to say no. And she needs to be.
no is a
And
vital word.
yeah. So we met her for the first time, and I don't want her in my house. I have to figure out how to do that because that's going to mean we're not going to be hosting probably for a while. Because that's going to be hard for them to not include her. So
Is she a relative or
yeah, yeah,
someone?
she's a sibling's daughter, I believe.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
may be magical if you have a conversation with her and invite her into a suite, yet
Who with who?
the one that you don't want in your house.
No, that's not the way that will work.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, that's why I don't want her around. If I thought I could talk to her, that would be a different thing. But it's about who she is, and I just don't want that energy here. Period.
Well, it's about how she is.
No, it's who she is.
Well, I think who everybody is intrinsically good.
Yeah, you can get to that space and if they're willing to own it, but she's not.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting. And we had a reasonable time. She was, yeah. But anyway, so that's just been my thing about yesterday.
Oh, I spent
Mm.
like 2 days renewing my CalFresh, I don't know if it's state or government, but the the programs that help pay for your medical stuff and all that stuff and all the paperwork involved in that. I was engaged in that a couple weeks, a couple days, 4 days. And working through within myself my invitation opportunity to go visit my family in Indianapolis, specifically my sister, who's not doing that well,
Yeah.
assisted living, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go to Indiana in the winter. The last time I was there, I vowed to myself, I promised myself I would not visit Indiana in the winter. I came back and my body was so screwed up, walking on ice. I mean, physically, literally walking on ice, and um, it's cold. I'm spoiled. I'm Santa Barbara spoiled, and I have decided to put myself first. I mean, that's a very conscious, decision that I've come to through
Yeah.
lots
And
of
there are
experience.
times you need to do it.
Put myself first, my well-being. Who's
Yeah.
going to take care of me if it's not me?
Yeah.
Who's going to put me first if it's not me? When it comes to my well-being,
Is your sister really bad or just,
well, she's not good. Um, I I couldn't really discern that well. She's in assisted living,
mm,
and my niece called to let me know that they're up leveling her care, in increasing her care to the next level, whatever that is.
Is it mostly physical or mental?
It's physical, but she's had COVID 3 times, and the doctor and Angel said the doctor said that it's affected her, mentally a little bit too.
mm.
Where she's not as sharp, or she's not as, you know, um, so that's what I've been holding and working with and through, to the conclusion that I'm to put my well-being first. What are your thoughts and experience with that?
Well, that's why I asked how severe her illness was. I mean, because you could go in spring if you think that that's a viable option.
Go in the spring.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to, although it's costly. It takes away from the rest of the money that I have for the rest of my life. but but yeah, I'll go in the spring.
Yeah.
That's not hard. Walking on ice is hard.
Yeah.
Wait there for a week or two, you know.
Yeah.
So I wish it were different.
Yeah.
I wish everyone was well and the weather was, and everybody could live in Santa Barbara or Santa Barbara like places. What's new with the two of you?
Mr. Robert?
No. Well, I could say not much, but there's so much going on. It doesn't fall within sound bites of 15 seconds or something. So I always have trouble with that. Anyway, I did have a wonderful time yesterday. There were 18 people who came to a friend of ours home, and only one that we didn't know. I mean, that wasn't a sort of a part of the cohort. And it was the brother of the woman who was, hosting us. And he was a riot. He's from Florida. He's a plumber from Florida and very outspoken, tells great jokes. He told us a fantastic blonde joke. Would it lift things up a little bit if I told it?
Go ahead.
Sure.
So this guy gets a call from his girlfriend, and she says, why don't you come over and help me here? I got this puzzle with a picture of a tiger on it, and man, I've been trying my damnedest to try to put these pieces together on the a jigsaw puzzle, and I just can't get it. I just can't even get it started. I mean, it doesn't, I don't see where the picture comes from. She said, okay, I'm busy right now, but I'll be there. So a few hours later, he pulls up and he goes in, and she shows him the box, and he's looking at the puzzle. He says, yeah, I don't think you're ever going to get a tiger on this one. Why don't you go in and make us some coffee, and I'll put the cornflakes back into the package. Actually, it isn't cornflakes. It's what's I couldn't remember the name of it.
Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes, and it's great. Anyway, you got it enough. Sorry, I blew it. But he was just holding forth, which was great because it meant he got to take part. He got to really feel at home with all of us because he knew a few of us, but not very well. So that was fun. The only issue that kind of was a bummer was, how you all want to be together and sort of have equal access to the table. And there's always the children's table, except there weren't any children. Well, one child, she's 30 now, so she's hardly a child. But so 7 people, I think, had to sit, at another table. And those of us, the rest of us, were sitting with the brother and Lester. So they were hearing these hilarious outbreaks of laughter. And I know they felt a little in the children's table, but it was so, well, other than that, the meal was incredible.
The outbreaks of laughter were from the people, the adults at the children's table. Yeah, sounds.
No, from the big table.
Big table.
The main table.
Okay.
And it wasn't just the brother. I mean, Lester. It was all of us. We were just having an uproarious time, and the others had a good time, I guess, but it was different.
Yeah.
I because it was in another room. I mean, they were connected by, but it's just like if they were in the same room, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's hard though. 18 people is a lot of folks.
I know. It was inevitable. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I can think of ways to have done it differently, but
Yeah, what I do, I've had 15 people in my house, and it's a very small house, but I just put the food on the table and we all sit in the living room.
and we could have done that. There's a big living room setting, so that. But I mean, there's a larger principle here of making do for the for the best outcome, and just
Right.
sensing all of those items. So much was done beautifully. The food was excellent, and the grouping was, a group that just really comes together in great fun, and so when there's something like that, you notice it.
Yeah.
It could have been perfect. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's really complaining about it,
Right.
but we noticed, that there was just this one thing that stood out.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that always the case? You say, well, did very well, but it wasn't quite perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of my story too. Yeah, it's very good, but not quite perfect.
In situations like that, my mind always goes to the better way that it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I want to go into action to make that happen. Often I mean,
Yeah.
I always have that response, and often I follow it,
Mhm.
and I like that about me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's talk about the things about us that we like and don't like. I think that would be fun and interesting.
Mm.
I like how I like to bring people together whatever way I can, and that's one like. You do one like about you, and then we'll start on the things we don't like.
Well, sometimes they're so deeply integrated. Like I've taken up a correspondence with an old friend, someone I knew years ago. So I like that when I sit down and just truly, center myself in just the joy of writing. No other agenda, nothing else in the mind. There's some wonderful things come out. What I don't like is that after I've written it and sent it, I'm thinking to myself, man, that was laying it out pretty raw. That it might be embarrassing and being somewhat concerned. And yet I think you have to serve the impulse,
Mhm.
when it's fresh and inviting and seems correct. You run with it, and you have to trust, that there's a reason this is all coming out. I'm still at that point of finding a moment of doubt, but I do send these things now. In the past, it used to just stop it cold. Oh, well, I guess I really don't have anything to say.
And what's been your response to that? What's been the
Oh,
experience?
it's often been very good. I haven't heard back from this one fella, so we'll see.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's the other piece of it. We often don't reflect on what actually happened. And that keeps that stuck place stuck. Because we keep the story going instead of really reflecting on, well, I thought it might be a problem, but it wasn't. So maybe I can relax on that.
So what about you, Kathryn?
Well, I'm going to go back to yesterday, I think, because I really like having people over. it has been a while. Since COVID, we haven't done that. I used to do it several times a year and I haven't. So it was nice to have a bunch of people over, and another person who's sort of a mutual friend came over, and we hadn't seen him for a while. And so that was nice too. It's just really sad for me because to Ani's point of, sitting down and talking with people, what I've learned is that sometimes you can do that and sometimes you can't, that people just are not open to that in any kind of way. And then you have to deal with what that is. And I've also learned to take care of myself in those situations and not to put myself in situations that I'm going to have to dig out from afterwards. And I just have such sadness for my friend because that's kind of what she's learning. And she hasn't quite learned it. And I have talked to her over and over again because I could sense how uncomfortable she is with this person and how dutiful, and it's family, all that stuff gets in there, but she's not seeing the person for who she is and what she's actually doing to her in her space. And she kind of senses it because she's not happy with it, but she's not owning it. She's not really saying, this is what it is, therefore I need to really take care of myself. And she usually can take care of herself very well. But I just have real concerns about this, and there's nothing I can do. I mean, this is her life, her choices, I don't have any control here at all. And I have shared my concerns with her, and before it was a done deal, and she understood, but she couldn't see her way out of it. She couldn't just say no. So yeah, so that's just kind of the lesson. And it's just sad for me that she's gonna in that space, because it's really hard having somebody in your house, and it's a small house and they're like always there. So it's just, you can't really like get away except to not be home, and that's kind of hard. So yeah, and I don't want that situation in my house, so I have to make some choices too.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. The part of me that I'm not so happy with is just my memory. I was thinking about the project that I'm involved in and other people, they're all younger, and how we I want to say measure authority, but that's not really right. Measure capacity maybe, or abilities, or verifications on stuff. When somebody tells me something, it's really one of my sort of ways of judging how truthful or useful the information is the amount of data that they can put around it and the amount of comfort that I have with the person in terms of their own integrity. And so I'm looking at me and I'm like, oh, well, this thing that used to be, and it's just, I can't bring in those data points anymore. And so I always feel very like I'm showing up as very incompetent and very unprofessional in those kinds of ways, because I can't back up what I'm saying. I can remember reading it. I can't remember the author or the title of the thing or where I found it, and so I can say the gist of the article, but I can't give all the other things around it that give it substance. It's not just me. And it's very frustrating,
I get what you mean. I think that's when I speak most loudly. With emotion.
Yeah, I know it's true. I know it's true. It's really right.
But you're definitely hitting on an issue that seems to go to the heart of what affects most people. just they start to doubt, who they are.
Yeah. Mm.
You doubt that who you are is going to come through, and stumbling over a couple of
Be enough.
facts are just is irrelevant.
Should be.
I'll just relate an example. So this woman who runs a blog, but it's also a clearinghouse for contractors and working with contractor issues. And she was speaking. She was an excellent speaker. She got to one point and she just suddenly stopped. And she said, I've forgotten what I was going to say. I mean, she's older. She's, probably 80. She's up in our age group.
No.
Not older than us. But so what she did was just, amazing to me. With the same lightness of being that she'd had earlier, human. She just looked and she said, I think I'm having a senior moment.
Yeah.
Now, bear with me. You all are going to, because most of the contractors were younger, you all are going to be in this mode. Whatever she said, it was of that nature.
Right.
And then, so she sort of trailed us along in that, but was there with us. Yeah. She didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People go somewhere else as they try to deal with this issue that just came up, this doubt. She didn't go anywhere. And then suddenly, boom, she kicked in, oh yeah. And then she, it's this nonstop for the rest of the, I mean, I don't think there was any cheering, but you could feel in the room, there was.
Yes.
But it was beautiful. And I went up afterward and congratulated her and told her that I would take that as a life lesson. I mean, it was irrelevant what she was talking about at this point, because it was a few years ago. I mean, not only a few, I was still in business, but just the way she did that.
Yeah.
She was gracious.
And we have no idea what she came out back with was simply she may have totally forgotten what she was going to try to say.
And just picked up another thread. Yeah.
Picked up the thread at a different place. And which she wouldn't have done probably if she kept trying to get that little sticky thing that she missed.
Right.
Who cares? No, she got the thread, came flying through. A good orator does that.
Yeah.
Because everyone forgets, even younger people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot actually of younger people have had the same kind of I can't remember or sorts of things. Yeah. It was funny. Your cat walked behind you, and then Terry stuck her head out, and my mind went black tail, black hair. How did the cat get up there?
That's they live together in Terry's mind. He takes good care of that cat.
It's just sort of interesting. Yeah.
Well, we're having some guests over later. Some people are coming for tea.
Oh, nice.
For tea.
For tea. Yeah, sometimes you do things just for the heck of it, even if they're anachronistic, right?
Well, and I kind of miss that. I miss that, just coming over kind of thing, that you have to call ahead and do all these other things. You just don't come over. I mean, people used to just come over to my house a lot, and now they don't,
I like the idea of inviting somebody over, come on over and have a cup of tea with me. But it's like, I don't think that's much of an attractor. So you know, at the top of my mind, I don't think that's much of an attractor. So I feel like I will have to invite them over for lunch, you know, and I don't want to because I don't have that, you know, it would be a pain in the butt for me to invite them over for lunch, but I'd love them to come over. But can you think of something other than tea?
Coffee.
I don't coffee here. I only do coffee at coffee shops with whipped cream. What? Because I'd love to invite people over, but for what?
Well, you have. I mean, I can remember you had some woman and her daughter over, and you really enjoyed that. You just invited them in.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, you really enjoyed her daughter. And I think her daughter came back by herself.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Any other
Yeah.
clues?
No. Since I didn't know them and I don't think they were given names. It's just that's all I can tell you.
Did they live here?
I had the feeling that they did. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have people over much.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a real art to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friends and I got into this pattern, I don't know, some 20 years ago when I lived up in Massachusetts, where we do potlucks all the time.
Yeah.
And it became as easy as pouring a glass of milk. I mean, you know, just, you know, you just say, hey, you know, we haven't met for a week. It's usually like 2 or 3 week intervals. You know, come on over.
Yeah.
You know, and there would be, and it was based on it being perfectly fine, whatever works out.
Yep.
And there was this sense of trust and magic even.
Yeah.
Because sometimes 5 people came, and so there would be, you know, some intense conversation. Other times no, not 20, I don't think that ever happened, but 12 to 15 people would come. And you know, and it was very interesting, you know, the combinations of food, because we never planned it.
Right.
You know, you just bring what you want.
Yeah.
Might be all desserts. Well, that never happened. You know, it might be all salads. That kind of happened.
We used to do that often too. And COVID kind of put the kibosh on all that. And now everybody's kind of separated or doing different things. And yeah, it hasn't come back together.
We still do it amongst our, you know, closest group.
Yeah.
Most of which was that that gathering last night. I mean, yesterday. I mean, that was a potluck.
Yeah.
Although the one who was the hostess and host, they had cooked the turkeys, but otherwise people were bringing everything else. And
So I heard you say turkeys. That was more than one. Well, yeah, with 18 probably. Yeah, that's a lot.
There was a lot left over. Well, they were smaller birds, so there needed to be 2.
Yeah.
So it's a man and woman who invited people into their home.
Yeah, husband and wife.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's a whole other thing. People dropping by that you seem to indicate, Kathryn.
Fine.
That doesn't happen much.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do here
close enough.
We're all on the same street, so there's about 4, you know, there's 13 little townhomes, and maybe 5 are connected enough that you just come to the door and say, you know, and that's actually remarkable. I remember when I first lived in New York City, I shocked the hell out of girl who was in my architecture class. I just showed up at the door. And she remembered that. I mean, it was very awkward at first, but it really impressed her, like, this is kind of cool. She'd never had anyone show up at the door before.
Oh, wow. Wow.
When I find out about something that I think some friends would like to attend, I'm always anxious, a little anxious when I go to their door. And so I can share the flyer, or because I have to have a flyer or something, some reason for showing
Right.
to justify my invasion. And it works. I mean, but it's the discomfort of doing that.
Right. It's a major, I think it's a major block, because from my point of view, the most important thing on this planet right now is for people to begin to feel comfortable enough with each other that we really do start to understand and accept the fact that we are totally continuous, in terms of our humanity. We are a single entity on this planet. As much as we are individuals, within this bag of skin, that definitely an individual, but we're not we put so much attention to that 5% of our consciousness that's individual, and 95% is absolutely shared with everyone else on the planet, and maybe some of the animals.
Or plants. I am reading a great on plants, a lady who's talking to plants and has been called by the plants to speak for them.
Yeah.
It was.
What book is that?
I believe, I haven't had that experience yet, but, I know that it's true with animals. So, why not?
Oh, she's got great stories. She's got absolutely great stories. And I talk to trees, but it's not to the depths that she has reached. And it's different. I'm trying to see if I can, do I have, it's in my Kindle stuff and my phone's not immediately handy. But it has plants in the title, but I can't remember the rest of it. She was quite called. Through dreams and stuff. She got these pictures and went through incredible initiations, with people in Brazil and other places, several places around the world, where they have been maintained that relationship with the plants. And in her experience, each plant has sort of a domain, I guess, and they want to teach her about their domain, how they interact with the rest of the world and what their gifts are and how to be useful. And so she's been learning that. So she's just right now just talking about her story. So I don't know if she'll ever get into more detail about it, but it's really very interesting. And she says it's not, and it's true. Well, when I speak to trees, it's words, although when they say their names, it's a different language. It's not English at all. And she speaks to that. It's not so much words as it's felt senses. You have to use your whole body to really engage with them. So it's just very different. I'm really trying very hard to find ways to get people to be re-engaged. And the hands in the dirt has been one, but there are other ways. And in January, I'm going to be interviewing Mary Ellen Hannibal, and she's written a book called Citizen Scientist. And so she's using that method to get people to notice what's happening around them and to see and engage. And so that's another way that people can do that. That's fairly simple, doesn't take a lot of effort, but
I'd suggest another way.
okay.
To pay attention to storytelling and engage in it, ourselves. I was driving back from, actually last week, driving back from my client out in, about 50 miles west of Atlanta, and listening to the radio, NPR station. And they were talking to, let me get it exactly. There were two Englishmen talking, and one of them was a poet. The other one was, let's just say, a naturalist, but also English. The poet was talking about listening to the trees, and the not just trees, the plants. I mean, it was all of them. And he said he did, he would go there for inspiration for his stories, because he was a storyteller as well. He said that he decided to try for a short while. He went out for a month or two, forget what it was, a long period of time. Maybe it was even 100 days. I mean, it was something like that, just sort of a large block of time. He went out to the same place at the edge of the forest at the same time of day, in any weather, every weather.
Oh, wow.
So consecutively, and this was in northern England, so I guess it could be pretty nasty. But he went regardless, and it wasn't for long. He said 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but he just wanted to experience, the life, this life situation, the habitat, the environment, whatever you want to call it, of this particular segment of the natural environment around him. And then he started talking about it, and he said it was just changed his life because of and he said exactly that it just started involving his heart in ways that were totally new to him, because he began to feel what, seemed to be emanating. I mean, as best he could tell, it was emanating from all around him, from the plants, from whatever other creatures were there, but he was mostly talking about the plants. And so that's another one. It requires, I mean, he made the point, squarely, that it absolutely requires the consistency, because otherwise you don't really move beyond your human,
Yeah.
mind space.
Yeah.
I love it when I'm reminded, as you are doing with me, of my time in the woods by myself. It was so awesome. No cultural trappings whatsoever in sight or sound. Just nature, just the trees, the forest, the meadow, the weeds, the flowers. Even a deer, and it serves me to revisit that as often it serves me to visit that often. I appreciate any stimulus that causes me to do that.
Well, it takes determination and intention. I was reading another article about a writer, a woman who lives in Kyiv, in the Ukraine, and is living through, the war there. And she's writing about the book that she created was from her diaries. So at one point she went up into the Donbass and visited some friends, that were in the northeastern area, which was Russian, Russian territory. And she didn't go into any of the details. So I don't know how she got across the so-called borderline or the front line or whatever. But she made the most amazing statement, which I can relate to, going into the wilderness, to feel nature. She made the statement like it suddenly, she was with her friends and feeling this incredible, surround of what they were going through. I mean, it was so different. I mean, that was total war zone, as if Kyiv wasn't, and even though she was from Kyiv, she was in this war, she had this distinct feeling that she had stepped out of her comfort zone into, a really dangerous place, that she was an intruder in a sense. You know what I'm saying? And what an amazing feeling. And how did she define that? She defined it by the fact that she could turn around and go back home, to a much more comfortable situation. And we'll say, wow, back to Kyiv, okay. But, even there was that sense of separation. And I think that's, just realizing it now, I think, the guy I was listening to on the radio, I think that was what his main point about the 100 days of absolute consistency. Because you begin to get beyond that. You're always going back. Because otherwise we're just tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not Tourons. You've heard that term. It's a combination of tourist and moron. Where you walk up to a bull elk,
Yeah, and pat his nose.
You pat it and try to get the picture, and meanwhile, you wonder, why is he goring me right now?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he turned on me. Yes. There was that buffalo, and it was, and calf, and they were so picturesque. And
They were there for my benefit. I paid money for
right.
the car.
And they wouldn't stand still. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, these are two things that just came to mind in the past week, and they coordinate. So there's obviously something here to be looking at about, in order to get to the new land, whatever that may be, of the new consciousness, you have to truly intend to step out of the consciousness you're in, or you're kidding yourself.
Yes.
It was funny, the article about this woman's book, this was a book review about the woman's book. And it pointed out that although this wasn't in her book, it was in her diary, that a couple of later, she was back in Kyiv, and she was at the grocery store, and these people who are obviously from out of town, I mean, all bright-faced and, and pretty, and well, it was evidently a very famous foreign photographer, represent, and her grouping, what are the followers, the helpers, and they needed some help because they didn't know Ukraine. And she just made the comment, I was so happy to help them. I mean, they were nice people, but just how out of place they were. And they thought they were there with this great, they thought they were doing us a favor, but they were out of place. And they'll be gone in another week. But, and then the note was written in her diary, but the world famous photographer gave her her card so our author could follow on Instagram. I mean, it was a mind blower to read this article during this part of it, because it just showed how fragmented our human consciousness is right now. To really bring that into some kind of harmony where we have no problem on walking into a neighbor's house or knocking on the door and asking, hey, let's have a cup of tea. There shouldn't be any problem there. How did that break get started? Well, it's being played out,
Yeah.
in so many ways.
We got so
Yeah.
used to being isolated.
Yeah.
And I know when COVID, started kind of coming on, I kind of thought it was a good thing, because and not to health, but I thought it was a good thing because it would require people to be with themselves.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
And that's what I was aware of in that time that we needed to do.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk.
Nothing will change until we change ourselves. And so being with ourselves was and is a good thing.
Yeah.
But we haven't developed the next evolutionary pattern.
Well, we've got caught back into old patterns because people wanted to go back the way it was, it makes it easier and all that. The employers resisted for a long time, letting people stay away, and now they're sort of relenting to some extent, but they still have really brought people back into work, and that's going to set up the whole thing all over again, because you get caught in that pattern. There's no space for anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the time has come to really be stepping out.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. That's what I'm encouraged.
What I'm finding is a lot of people are.
Yeah.
It's not in the mass media that much, or if it is, it's a story like what I just spoke of the one who, the internationally famous war photographer, and her dispatches back to the paper. We're seeing that they used to call it slumming, going in New York City, going into South Bronx. Well, it's quite a different thing to just, go into the ghetto because it was cool. Whereas I had a job in the South Bronx and had to go there every day for a while, every week. It was about 2 days a week, to this venereal disease clinic. And I started meeting some of the locals, the kids, the little Puerto Rican lady who would serve me in the bodega where I got lunch, and suddenly there were real people surrounded by, or one of the kids coming up to me and, started really blasting questions at me. Who are you? What are you doing? And I told him, I just started telling him the whole story. And he left me by saying, man, this is a dangerous neighborhood. You better be careful. But he said, we'll be watching out for you.
Oh, nice.
Now, he was a teenager, or 12 or something. I mean, it's like, once you're accepted in any community, it's different from just touring through.
Yeah.
Particularly if touring through, you've set up your defenses. Like, it always bugged me to go into the wilderness with a cell phone. I never had one. I mean, I never had anything. that's a defense. That's saying, if I can't blend with this experience, oh, I've got an out. I mean, I can call the helicopter to come in. No, no. I almost broke my leg falling one point. If I'd broken my leg on the top of the mountain alone, I probably would have stayed there for forever. No, until somebody found me. You know, but to me, that's very important to take those kinds of, and that was a long time ago, but I still do it in lesser ways. That was pretty extreme. But, you know, to go into some of the neighborhoods around this city are really extreme. You know, they're third world.
Yeah.
No question about it. And, you know, you're either a Turon or you're willing to just to blend, to bring yourself and open up honestly.
Right.
Or you might be in danger.
Yeah.
I had a universal prompting at the end of 2019, before COVID, and it's like the universe, and because I had been really active and busy and with community stuff and Barbara Marx Hubbard and Marianne Williamson and bringing people together for them, with them. And the universe shut me down. It was really clear. And it was the end of 2019, November of 2019, and George Floyd, it was and he was part of that, and in this initiative some kind of way for me. And I think I'm waiting for another universal prompt to get me back out.
No.
And I haven't felt it yet. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, could it be? I mean, I take another interpretation of what you're just saying. Could it be that the universe was telling you, honey, you can't depend on the vision of a Barbara Marx Hubbard or a Williamson, you know?
I got my own.
This has got to be your own path.
I have no problem with having vision of my own. It's not somebody else's. It's supporting that because it's similar to mine. So it's.
But what I hear Robert saying is that maybe it's time to step out on your own, for your own.
Yeah. That's where I bring universal prompting in. Because yeah, I can step out and do anything, but that ain't gonna happen if it's not aligned with is.
It's true.
Emerging. So I'm available. I let the universe know of my availability.
Yeah, I find there's kind of an itch to do something, and maybe not a clarity about what to do, but an itch to do something. And so I experiment and I do this and I do that until something hits. And that's kind of been my last few years of trying to do stuff. And there's a part of it that feels like it's coalescing, and we'll see, because I keep getting little things come in and does this fit? And my interview with Dan Gorder on GaiaNet was really very interesting. I learned a whole lot about GaiaNet. I really recommend that. He's
What's it called again?
It was on Inspiring Interviews, so it's on the website, and it's Dan Gorter and GaiaNet. And GaiaNet is kind of what I was trying to do, or am trying to do, with the Coming Home Project originally was a network of networks, and that didn't materialize, but he's done it in a different way. And they have 600 or 400 people and 600 projects. And it was really interesting to, and you have to be invited in. So he did invite me during the interview. So I filled out the application, and that's in process. But what I was impressed with is their focus on relationships and how they have really, they have a long, he said they have a long onboarding process. So I will be starting that to see what that's like, because it's all about relationships. And this is, you know, the weakness. We all agree. This is kind of our weakness right now. We just have a hard time with relationships. And I'm contrasting that with my church, where we've been together for years. Relationships, well, not so much, you know. I don't go over to their house. They don't come over to my house. We just don't have that kind of relationship. We work together, okay. Some better than others. But now we're trying to shift our governance structure. And I'm really feeling uncomfortable with that, because we're getting into it feels to me like we're getting into the domineering of the mediocrity, you know, where you can't really do anything until everybody agrees. And so you can't do anything, because if you do something and they haven't agreed or they haven't gotten into it, well, then you can't do that. So instead of releasing people, it's trying to get people all to fit. And that's not my understanding of what we were doing. And that's not what I see sociocracy being effective at, because it's the releasing human potential. That's what we want to do. We don't want to just get us all together so we're all doing the same thing. We may be doing the same thing, but we have to have that individuality at the same point. We don't want to lose that. And I feel like we're really shutting all that down. So he is doing just the opposite. And he's saying, oh my gosh, it's so fun. Everybody can do stuff. And so I'm really curious, how do you do that? And so I'm going to be really interested in that onboarding process and the kinds of things they do. It was also interesting to see that so many of the groups I'm already involved in are partners there. So that was interesting to see. So yeah, it's just a new exploration.
What's Dan's last name?
Gorter, Gortor, or Ter, Gorter.
And it's GaiaNet.
GaiaNet.com. Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that, Kathryn, I'm so aware of the creative initiations that you do, because you're a prime mover. You initiate and cultivate and take first steps in the midst of things, and I really appreciate that and recognize that about you.
Thank you.
So let me know if something emerges and you need support of some kind.
Okay, thank you.
Because I believe in you.
I appreciate that. Oh, the two of you have just been wonderful, really. It's been incredibly supportive.
Well, it's
at a time
been useful all the way around. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Right now. But by the way, I've got to go help my wife get ready for people coming. So I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah, I got to pill the dog.
Yeah, I've got to go rake some leaves.
Yeah.
You're looking at your background reminded me of that.
I may have to, I have to do that. I may get to it today. We'll see, or tomorrow.
All right. See you later. See you next week.
Okay.
I don't.
Bye-bye.
Next week is fine. Absolutely fine. See you next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.